wonder if we'll ever had anyone else that watches this.
Anyone else that watches this?
I wonder if anyone else will ever watch this. So it's just gonna be me talking to myself. You know?
Not good attitude to get on it. My friends watch, you know that.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, I'm here. I'm gonna go through my games list. I'm gonna chat. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't do it yesterday because I wanted to do it yesterday. But if you can hear anything in the background, let me know. Madeline's also in here listening to a video of some kind, so...
I don't think they'll be able to if you change the mic pattern to only just pick up in front of you instead of going around them.
I don't know which... I don't even know if it's strong enough to do that. But...
No, I don't think they'll be able to. And my laptop's on very, very low volume.
So... I'm just gonna keep going through it. Yeah. I'm trying to... I really wish I could do this earlier in the day, but I've been working this week. As usual. So... Had to substitute on Wednesday, and then Tuesday, Thursday, still nannying, and then I'm still sick, so I would like to do this earlier in the day, you know, when I'm not tired and feeling more cynical about the world because it's getting dark. So I'm just going to do it now because I didn't do it Wednesday, and I'm never going to get through this 500 plus games unless I start working on it. So if anyone shows up, that'll be great. I got some messages in our Discord here that I might discuss if said people show up. It'd be nice to discuss them at least. So anyone who's tuning in, if you are, welcome. Otherwise, I have this big heckin' long list of like 500 some games, which just reset itself. Thank you very much. And I'm trying to trim it down to sort it out, to try and finally start tackling some of these games. I got my for later ones, aka ones that I'm not necessarily not going to play, but essentially I'm not planning to play anywhere in the near future, because like some of these are ones I do, a lot of these actually are ones I do want to play at some point, but like something like, you know, Shin Megami 5 Vengeance, I'm obviously not going to play that until I've played Shin Megami 5. I liked playing the original versions before the enhanced versions. And then these are the ones that I want to play, which I have no experience in. And then I have the replay one, which are generally ones that either I have played all the way to completion or have played somewhat but dropped, and I would like to replay. And I'm just going to go through this list I have and just kind of sort through them. I'm not sure who may or may not be here, but at the very least, as long as it's just me here, I'm going to answer. This is our Cozy Gamers Twitch chat. You can see here. Got a little icon here. It's our Cozy Gamers Discord. So I'm just going to anyway, this is also kind of like streaming is my way to hold myself accountable to actually working for it. Things, because when you have a HD brain and autistic brain, it means that you are kind of just doubly screwed in the executive functioning area. I'm probably going to have to get some tissues a little bit because I still cannot kick this cold. But it means planning and scheduling things is extraordinarily difficult to keep on doing. So I'm trying to give myself something to achieve here. And, you know, this might be a better way to do this, but for right now, this is the way I'm going at it. I'm just going to go at it, make lists, make schedules, and we'll figure out where to go from there. So I believe I left off, we were talking about the Atelier series I brought before, a set of cozy games. I have like 9 of them, and I want to play one of them at some point. So I put those on there. I put Marie because that's the one I'm starting with. Ryza I tried to play. It was not clicking with me. So I will come back to that one. I do want to beat it at some point. But we're going to start with Marie because that was the first one in the series. So let's see what else we got here. Also, I'm not going to probably be on here for very long. Probably should mention that. Anyway, this feels so unprofessional right now. I'm doing messages in, like, on recording with this live on the internet. It's crazy. Anyway, Azure Lane Crosswave, I'm pretty sure it's based on a gacha game, if I remember correctly. Come on, work with me here. Let's see here. Yeah, so this is based on this gacha game where they have like girls that are also based off of like famous ships in World War II, I believe. Apparently there's an anime about it. The reason I know about this series is literally because Azure Lane did a crossover. Here's a better one. Azure Lane did a crossover with Lindsay Sterling for a music video, and I really like that music video. So of course, with anything that I'm like fixated on, I really liked Lindsay Sterling at the time, so I wanted to know where the animation came from. I thought it was pretty, so I looked it up, and then I essentially learned a fair bit about like the anime itself and a little bit about the games. I mainly know about this one right here, who's based off the Enterprise, very famous American warship, known as the Old Grey Ghost. You know, and history and personifying it into a character has always been a fascinating thing to me, but obviously, you know, like many gacha games, it is built with the boob cell mentality. Man, I have a article idea I want to write about gacha games, and part of it is that, like, yeah, I'm not bothered with the fact that sex sells. I mean, sometimes you know, you can still look great, and I like a good-looking guy. Sometimes I like a good-looking girl. It really goes back and forth. I'm a person that at best is aesthetically attracted to people. I don't know that I've ever been like any other kind of attracted to people, but for at least I can appreciate aesthetics. So I got this, I think, on sale somewhere. I don't remember it. I remember it being a very short game. I'm gonna put it on the for later list for now, because I think it's like a shooter. Okay, Azure Striker Gunvolt. Okay, here's something else. Azure Striker Gunvolt, if I remember correctly, is supposed to be like a Mega Man successor. Yeah. So, I've never played the Mega Man games. It's too bad Ixie isn't here. He asked me about Mega Man. So I have like no experience playing the Mega Man games. I did, briefly date someone who was very into Mega Man games, and of course, as sharing topics is like my like love language of like sharing special interests, whatever, like the things he was into, I kind of collected into my own interests. Gotta love this ponytail this guy's rocking, gotta say. So, I learned a lot about Mega Man from him. I got an appreciation for it. And, I do think it's an interesting series, not in the classic era. I just don't care for a lot of the early classic games. I just don't care for because I did not grow up with them and I never really got into them. But, like, I know a little bit about the X series. I did actually, like, they are asking about, like, a game we're going to come down to later on here is, the Battle Network games. I did buy that of my own free will. It wasn't gifted to me. He was asking about them. Like, that one I did want to buy because I like a good tactical game. I have this game. I think it was on sale. But the reason I sought out this game is because I actually saw the third game in a trailer, and I'm like, that looks really cool. Then I realized that there were actually 2 others in the series, and I always love a compilation pack. If I can get more than one game for $60 or less, you better believe I'm going to go for this. So I got this one. So I'm going to put this on my playlist. Because I remember correctly, it's supposed to be like a Mega Man sort of game. But I like, just because, and this is a game I literally bought off of aesthetics. I think the main character looks cool. I also like, lights, color, flashiness. I love this sort of art style that has this sort of, like, neo, tech sort of things. I don't like sci-fi exactly, but I do like it when you have this kind of, like, hyper, like, active style. And this is if I remember correctly, the Switch ones are based off of the DS games. 3DS, that is. So I'm going to put this one on the new games list. I would like to play one at some point. So we'll put... Let's see, we'll take... So I'm going to take... Come on. My thing is just not working with me right now. Alright. Okay, this is... I don't know why sometimes, let me see that I need to reset it. Sometimes in Google, for some reason, the, like, keyboard commands won't work, so let me try and refresh all the pages. It has been a little bit since I've worked on these docs. Which I will be willing to share with people if they're interested in. I did share this main spreadsheet on our Discord, just so people could take a look at it. I'd be down for that. Again, the whole reason I'm doing this on stream in the first place is hoping that, like, essentially that to have a conversation with anyone who's out there and just wants to talk or listen to someone else talk for like an hour or two. And I'm doing this for myself, but also I would love to hear people's recommendations and be like, hey, you should try this. So we're going to put Gunvolt 3 obviously on the for later list. It's weird they have the first 2 games and the third one's just all on its own. But I obviously can't play the third one until I play the first 2. I'm generally go chronological with things. I don't remember what this one is at all. But not always. But when most of the time when the game has like a number behind it, that you're usually meant to play them in a certain order. If it's anything like the regular Mega Man games, it probably has a connected lore across all its games, so. Let's see. Oh, this is an Otome game. I forgot. Okay, so let's have a brief subject about Otomes here. So, an Otome game is a visual novel where generally it usually has some, like, tense story of some sort, but you have like usually like 6 or so love interests. Li, I believe, is like their thing, but like that you can date, and you'll have different story paths depending on each love interest, and you'll usually have different special artworks, like you can kind of see here, depending on which love interest, and you have different paths. A lot of Otome games have it where all the different love interests kind of all converge into one storyline and give you, like, you have to go through all of them to get to, like, the true ending. And some of them don't. Some of them just have it where it's just straight up you date different guys. But Otome is the one that is for men. I don't remember the name for when you have female love interests. I just know Otome is the one for guys. But, I went through this phase where I just was really into collecting Otome games, not for, like, even playing them. I have, like, 12 or 15 of them, and I've only played the demo of one of them. But I just really like the art style, because it has usually because it's like collecting books in a way. It's almost like collecting, young adult fiction, except for it's a game. Because, like, you look at it, it's like, it's all about, like, the storyline, you have the artwork, and then you like voice acting, stuff like that. So I think I got this one on sale. I don't recognize it. But I also get a lot of things from PlayAsia when they're cheap. So this one looks like one that's like a samurai period one. It's definitely one of the older ones because you can tell by the art style. So I went through this whole phase where I bought a lot of Otome games purely because I love their covers, and I'm like, I'll play this at some point. The only one I've actually played anything was, which we'll see a little later here, is Steam Prison, and I played the demo of that. I was just blown away by how much they included in that demo. Like, there's a whole route in that just one demo, and I played that for like 4 days. And I honestly loved it, which was enough for me to buy the game. I actually bought the game twice because I bought it originally. In the West it's only a digital, but you can get it overseas for a physical, and I waited until it was cheap enough. So we're gonna put this on the for later one. Not that I don't want to play it. I'll come back to it eventually. But let me put Otome behind it, because otherwise I'm not going to remember what this game is. Funny they didn't translate them into English. Usually they translate the things into English for Otomes, but there's more like I said, I have like 15 Otome games to play. So I'm going to try and, the ones I can remember their storylines for, I'll put on the for play list, because those clearly I remember them well enough to want to play them. But then like other ones I'll put on the for later list just because, you know, I want to do them all at some point, but I don't even know if those would be things I would do, like, on stream or anything. Those might just be things I have to, like, sit down and read, like, a book, but that's the problem. When there's games I really want to sit down and, like, savor, it's usually when I don't play them, because then I put them off. That's why I didn't play Star Rail for, like, a while, because I wanted to play the next region, but I wanted to focus on it. Sometimes you just gotta make time. Okay, so here's Baldo, the Guardian Owls. So, I don't remember a lot about this game. However, I do remember its story being that it was like very basic, but like I remember there being some sort of heartwarming story around this game. Like, it had not the best release, but it was working under a small team and it was constantly being updated. Clearly, the developers were trying to make it the best experience it could be. It originally started digital and then it made itself to be a physical, if I remember correctly. I think it's supposed to be an action adventure game. I can't quite remember. It does have kind of that Ghibli look to it. I don't exactly remember what it's about. I'm going to assume there's owls in it, at least. It does look like an adventure game of some sort. I just remember, the reason I bought this at the time was because it was, well, one, it was cheap. It was on the eShop. And it was cheap. But also because I remember there being like a story, like I watched a trailer or something, a story about this game and its dev team, and I just thought that was really cool. And I thought, you know, sometimes I literally buy games just because I want to support the developers. I'm like, hey, you guys need to feed your families. I can give you my $10 to help you out, you know? Like, sometimes I buy things just because I want to support them, and it's not, like, the idea I think is interesting. I don't really remember anything about this game, so we're going to put it on it for later gifts, because I honestly can't remember what it's about. Okay, let's see. Batting Titles. I remember this one. I went through, like, I started watching this channel called, well, it usually was Switch Watch, but now it's called Physical Paradise, because they changed it. But they would, like, do releases every week, but more importantly, they would tell you, like, what games are, like, new imports, because usually you can get, there's a lot of, like, Japanese, games, namely RPGs and, like, Otome games, which I like, that are just much cheaper getting, like, the Asian edition or the Japanese edition and setting it to English. Like, the Sonic and Shadow, Generations that I showed you guys yesterday, I got that from Japan. You know, I just put it on the English settings, and it plays the same. And you know, you can sometimes just get way better stuff there. So, this is another one that kind of, like, I heard a lot of good things about. Apparently, this was, like, a life-changing game for a lot of people. It was, like, on the PlayStation, or the PlayStation 2. A lot of people apparently have very fond memories. It is an RPG. And again, more importantly, it's a collection. I love collection games, because it gives me stuff to work with. I believe this is about people who have wings, or something like that. Like, I remember there's a thing about something that has to do with wings. Oh yeah, it's a card. That's the thing I remember. It's a card builder game. Yeah, it's also an RPG. And I remember that thinking that was a kind of unique thing. I hear it has a kind of steep level curve to begin with, but I also watched some trailers. I'm like, that sounds kind of interesting. Yeah, that's the thing. There's one guy who has, like, one regular wing and, like, one metal wing. Giacomo. That's the name of someone in. And this is one of those games I'm like, I will probably put on my to try list. I'll put on the again, the for now games are not necessarily things I'm going to play all at once. I'll obviously, I think for this wouldn't necessarily rank very high on me. Kind of reminds me of like the older Final Fantasy games where I'm like, on one hand I'm intrigued by the story and I like the ideas of the concept, but on the other hand sometimes older graphics just do not gel with me, and it's not even a quality thing. It's more just the idea of like, sometimes it's older mechanics that are just like, this hasn't aged well. So I don't know about this game. But we're going to put in the new games list. Because I haven't put one of those down there in a little bit. We'll put it there for now. Battle Chef Brigade. So I got this one because it was like 99 cents on sale. And I remember in college, someone in my game design program played this game like religiously. Every time I was in the game lab, he played this. From what I understand, it's like a Connect 3 sort of game. And I hear it's very simple. I hear it's very easy. I hear it's like very mobile game-esque. I think it might have even been a mobile game before. I just remember, for some reason, I distinctly remember this game in college. Like, everyone seemed to be playing it. And of course, I'm never in with what's actually happening. Like, I'm never in with trends or social media or whatever stuff. So, like, I remember this game existing. I just never knew of it, like, more than its name. So I got it because it was $1, and why not? Also, the art style is really cool. Like, this looks like just pretty cool, you know? So I don't know a whole lot about it, honestly. I don't know if it's a long game or a short game or what. But, you know, honestly, you know, I've been putting most of the shorter games on the for later list. I'm going to put this one on the new games list because I think I need some shorter titles somewhere along the way in order to put between some of these longer ones. Okay, let's take a look at this one. This, I believe, is another Otome game. Usually the longer titles are... Sorry if you're going to hear me sniffling, by the way. I'm still very much sick. Oh, yeah. I remember this one actually came out when I was just getting into Otome games. I'm like, I like the art style of this because this looks, again, I think the other thing that draws me in these sort of games is that they remind me of, like, JRPGs in terms of their art style. Or animes, or Fire Emblem, or Suyu, which I love. Like, you got these cool artworks, and so this one clearly is one. If I remember correctly, the storyline for this one, I think... Gosh. I think the storyline for this one is that, like, your main character, who's always, like, a non-named girl, is supposed to be, like, the head of one of the clans. Is it either this is... I bought two of them that were in, like, the, like... older Japanese vibe. This was either the one where she pretended to be a boy for most of her life and is like the leader of her clan, and so you know you're making things with that, or it's the one where you like she is still the heir of the clan but like needs to be protected or something like that. I honestly don't remember the storyline that's supposed to go along with this one. It looks cool. I have another Otome game called Nightshade, which has a very similar premise to this one. I remember that. See, the other reason I get Otome games is because I love getting these special editions. Because usually they're like $20 more than the base game on its own. So like, you know, if you're buying the game for $60 nowadays, this will be $80. And for $80, in addition to the base game, I get a steelbook, an art book, usually some other goodies like some music CDs, like train cards in this one, but like sometimes they'll have keychain charms. I'm doing my best. I'm on like day 4, I think, of this sickness, and this is the best I've sounded all week. And I still sound incredibly nasally. At least I'm not dripping like a faucet now, but like I feel bad. I have not been answering like any of my messages or like really doing a whole lot of anything productive besides working and sleeping as much as I'm able to, because this cold is thanks, this cold has been knocking me over. Just December, there's always that December cold that like you either are sick for 3 days or you're sick for like 2 weeks. So it's definitely going to be one of those longer ones. Even if I'm hoping by Saturday or Sunday I'll have gone over the hump of this for the most part, because I do feel I'm slowly getting there. But like, then you're still like fatigued for like a week afterwards. So yeah, I blame my brother because him and his girlfriend were sick. They're walking around our house. It might have not come from them, but you know, I'm just gonna say, you see someone sick, even if you only interacted with them for like an hour, and you're like, you gave this to me. I could have gotten it from anywhere. I work with kids. It could have gotten it from anywhere. So anyway, while you're here, actually, I'm gonna address your question you said before on Discord. You were talking about games. I was talking about this briefly before, but the Mega Man collections we're gonna get to in a little bit. The Quarry actually is my sister's game. She watched, I think, Jacksepticeye play it, and she loved it so much that she bought it for herself. Nice. So, she bought the game, actually when it was like $60 still. She like just, my sister's bought like 2 games in her entire life, and it's like this and Hogwarts. And I think she was gifted unpacking once. And she has like Animal Crossing, because we all got Animal Crossing during the pandemic. But like, she bought the Quarry, so we do own it. I actually recently for Black Friday bought Until Dawn, like the original version, because with the remaster out, the original version was like $10. So I'm like, I can't pass that kind of price. And I've been wanting to. I think I, like everyone, watched the playthrough of Until Dawn when it originally came out from your favorite streamer. And I'd be willing to try it because, again, people remember, Detroit Become Human was one of my favorite series we've done on stream so far. At least in the new channel. In the old channel, I think would probably be a toss-up between Astral Train and Battle and Wonderworld. Those were my favorite games we played on the old channel. But I was just thinking about, I should have our old channel follow our new channel, and maybe we'll actually start getting some more viewers. I don't know how to advertise ourselves. Anyway, so I bought Until Dawn because after playing Detroit Become Human, which was like a narrative-based game, choice-based game, I'm like, this is like the peak of what I consider like for like choice-based games. Like the choices actually feel like they matter. The story was engaging, the characters were endearing. But the thing that everyone always looks to in terms of like a narrative-based game is always Until Dawn. Now, I have watched many streams of Until Dawn, and I will admit, watching Detroit Become Human versus playing it was definitely a very different experience. I'm going to move this so I can see my face a little better. It was definitely a very different experience. I'm trying to see. I need to put this in somewhere better. There we go. Was definitely a very different experience. So, like, maybe playing Until Dawn versus watching will be different. So I bought it to do that at some point. And just, like, everyone and their brother, I feel, has done a video essay on Until Dawn. And that's fine. I think it's a well-crafted game. I think it's classic. I think I'm a fan of watching the Dark Picture anthologies and stuff like that. But, you can't find a singular essay about Detroit Become Human besides like the 1 or 2 that either say outright it's bad or say it's missed opportunities. I'm like, what happened to, like, I was talking about this a little bit in our last stream. What happened to just retrospectives, just going over the history of a game, just going over the experience instead of going in and nitpicking it? That was the same thing I was talking about. Like, I couldn't find a retrospective of Criminal Minds. I just found like a few occasional videos talking about how like it has this political lean, or it's inaccurate, or something, or manipulative, or something. I'm like, is there nowhere who just goes and... I might do that at some point. Like, I would be willing to watch the seasons of Criminal Minds and go do a video on them. I have so many ideas. Anyway. So, long story short, we do own the Quarry. I would not be opposed to playing it. I've not actually seen it played all the way through. I keep starting Jacksepticeye's playthrough, and I don't know. Maybe it's just... The funny thing about the Quarry, and I can just, speak for a moment on that. I have to get back to this game list at some point, but now I'm thinking about it. The weird thing about the Quarry is that, so watching the first few chapters of it, the characters are far less annoying than I find them to be in Until Dawn. I actually think most of them are pretty good, if not tolerable. Yet, the storyline itself is far less gripping. So, I get to, episode 3 or 4, and then I just forget to keep going. It's not necessarily that I was bored, but I just was not driven to watch the next episode. That's what I'm saying. Like, the quarry could be something that I could play pseudo-blind, because I've watched up to the same point, like, 4 times, to, like, episode 3 of, like, Jacksepticeye's playthrough, which is before, like, anything spooky even happens. Like, it's before, like, any of the monsters even show up. So, like, I actually probably could play the quarry pretty close to blind at this point, because I still haven't seen the whole thing. So, we do own it. I wouldn't be opposed to playing it. Anyways, what else did you ask about? Yeah, so the quarry's not mine, that's my sister's. The Mega Man collections, I kind of brought this up a little bit earlier, but I originally, the one time I dated someone, he was very into Mega Man. He was also very into Godzilla. And a couple of other things. Usually, like, my, like, love language, as I could say that, is sharing special interests. Like, if I'm sharing that with someone, it's a show of trust. A way to try and seek connection with other humans. Most people take it as me not shutting up about the things I love, but, you know, that is what it is. So, he was really into Mega Man and Godzilla, so naturally, he told me a lot about those things, and I took in a lot of that as well. So, I have an interest in Godzilla. I watched some of the original movies. I really prefer the 2000s movies, because I just think that Godzilla is cooler. And I've kind of been into a thing about, like, collecting, like, Godzilla figures and plushies now, because I don't know, I just think he's cool. And that's hyperfixations for you. Sometimes you just start loving something for no reason, and even though you, like, been exposed to it before in life, for some reason it just hits differently later on in life. And he was really into the classic Mega Man games, which I never cared for aesthetically. The first way to get a game is to get me aesthetically, to bring it back to Otome games. The reason I own so many of this is the aesthetics just speak to me. I love looking at them. Even if I never play the game, I'm just going to look at this because it's so pretty. Anyway, this is actually why to go back to the Otome thing, this is why I stopped buying them, is because now I'm more interested in collecting special editions. Because, like, if I have to pay $60 for a game outright anyway, I might as well just pay $80 and get a bunch of cool stuff that comes with it, you know? Otome limited editions are usually fairly cheap. By comparison, most limited editions are somewhere in the 100 to 200 range, depending on who you're buying them from. Most expensive ones are definitely from Atlas, and I've bought 2 of those. Neither of which I would say was a regret, but both of them were ones that I definitely was like, this is way too expensive for the amount of stuff I'm getting in this, but at the same time, I also really want to get it, so I overspent on those. Anyway, to go back to Mega Man, I bought, like, the X series, I believe, collection, on sale, because those were digital. The Mega Man Battle Network. Now, that's the one I do remember him having, like, an interest in, and I thought was cool. The reason I got the Battle Network one is because I didn't once I learned that it was a tactical game, I was all over it, because I'm like, I love to try and incorporate new tactical games, especially an old classic tactical game. And also, watching the gameplay and the art style, it just seemed kind of cool. It seemed like the only one that had, like, a actual following, like, a storyline you could follow. I did actually, when we get to that entry on my list, I will put that in my, my to-play pile, because I did start playing the first one. I just got lost, because old Game Boy games, if you were of that era, you know, they were not the easiest things to navigate. I don't know how we did it as kids, besides the fact that we had way more time. But, like, they were not the easiest thing to navigate. I had to go into guides because I kept running into random encounters and I got annoyed. I might get this at some point. I literally will buy, like, 2 version just to be like, oh yeah, give me all the things. Like, this ass comes with 2 posters? Like, I could swap it? I love me a poster. Anyway, so this is the entry we're on right now. Let's see, what else did you say? Oh, Ni no Kuni. Gosh. I had to write, we'll get back to the list in a minute, but I'm just answering your questions as long as you were here, because, you know, then I have to type them up in Discord. So you mentioned the Ni no Kuni franchise. That's also one that has been memories for me, because I remember I got the first game, it was for the PS3, again, I got into a lot of things in college. And so that was one I got into. I've never been to the Ghibli movies. I appreciate them and respect them as an art form. I just never really gotten into them. They kind of go to a visceral sort of part of humanity that is beautiful but makes you a little uncomfortable. So I never was really into them. And the animation for me is just slightly off-putting, which is kind of his style. So I'm like, I appreciate them. I watched some of them. I respect them as an art form. But it's like, it's not something I'm going crazy over. But I heard about Ni no Kuni. I saw like on a top 10 hidden RPGs list. I've gotten so many games because they've been on like hidden JRPG lists. So I bought the game because it was fairly cheap at the time, and honestly, it was I loved it. I'll leave it at that. I won't go into it because otherwise I'll rant all night. But Ni no Kuni 1 and Ni no Kuni 2, which I believe is the superior game. A lot of people don't agree on that, but I also think there's a little bit of nostalgia goggles for the first game because the first game is the one that Studio Ghibli helped out with. The second game was done by Level 5 alone. Level 5 also makes great games. Like, they don't have a ton to their repertoire, but like everything they have is like really just heartwarming. Like they know art when it comes to video games. But I love that series, and I would love to play them again. The first game plays a little slower than the second because the combat is kind of autoplay instead of like active play, so it can take a little time, but the story in both is great. The characters are wonderful. I just prefer the combat way more. That's why, like, I remember talking to Mallory, she's like, if you had to say off the top of your head which one do you like more, because I'm like, I honestly like aspects of both a lot, so I wouldn't want to put one over the other, but I'm like, if we had to give it a clear winner, I would give it to 2, just because the second game, the combat is way better. The first game, I don't really care for like auto battle where you like throw out a monster and you wait for it to attack the enemy. I like taking initiative and, you know, defeating the enemy. Now, I love the monster catching mechanic of the first game. I wish that there was more of that in the second game, of course, because I love monster catchers, but I'm like, the combat of the second game is just so much faster. It's much easier to grind. I also just like the wider cast. The first game has a much smaller cast, which is, you know, typical of Ghibli films. But also for a JRPG, it feels a little small at times. Still a great story, but it just feels a little small. And then the second game, I prefer a larger ensemble cast. If I'm going to play with a JRPG party, I like generally like 5 minimum for a party. To have like, you know, rounded personalities. So I would love to play Ni no Kuni on stream. I had a paper I had to do about like a game series, and it was literally between like Ni no Kuni, Spectrobes, and Fossil Fighters. And I ultimately went and did Fossil Fighters because I had too much to say about Ni no Kuni and Spectrobes because I love those 2 series. So I was like, okay, if I had to make this small, let me choose the one I care for a little bit less. Anyway, that's why probably my list is so long. I have so many JRPGs. But, they do take a while to complete, but not as many as you think they do. I mean, when you think about it, a lot of, like, there are titans, like Persona 5, or Fire Emblem 3 Houses. That'll take, like, can take up to 100 hours. But actually, a lot of RPGs only take 30 hours, or 40 hours. And to be honest, nowadays with modern gaming, that actually is, like, the playtime of most games. Like, sure, there's a couple of short games that are like 2 hours, 10 hours, whatever. But a lot of the big hitter titles are going to take you 30 hours anyway. Like, how many hours do people spend in Breath of the Wild? How many hours do people spend in Mario Odyssey? How many hours do people spend in Animal Crossing? Minecraft? You know, like, it's more a matter of, like, choosing time. The reason it's hard to jump in and out of a JRPG is that those 3 series I mentioned are kind of mindless games. You don't have to keep track of things. JRPGs are usually very story focused and usually have some level of complicated combat, so they're a little difficult to jump in and out of. So I agree, you know, sometimes if you do a JRPG, you have to stay in. There's going to be a couple of JRPGs I'm going to put on this list that I definitely have started but not finished because I let them go for a while. Like Persona 3, I got really far in that game and then I didn't play it for a while, so I totally forgot how to play it, and then I forgot what to do, and so I'm gonna have to just start over. I have so many games I own, but I haven't played. I'm sort of completionist, so I have a lot of hours in one game. Yeah, same. I'm not a completionist, but I do generally like to get to the end. I want a sense of completion at the end. I'll usually play until I'm satisfied. So sometimes I, like, Pokemon. I never played past the champion because my sense of satisfaction was being the champion. And most of the time I couldn't even do that, so sometimes my sense of satisfaction was just being the 8th gym leader. Because sometimes, like in the beginning, I couldn't even get past Victory Road in a lot of games. That was kind of my fault. For my first game I played was Crystal, my second game I played was Diamond. So, Crystal I never beat because I couldn't get past Bruno because my main Pokemon at that point was an Umbreon. That's why Umbreon is my favorite Pokemon. And then Diamond, I was like 12 at the time. How many people beat Cynthia when they were 12 and they didn't know how the game worked? I was still figuring out type weaknesses and stuff like that. I don't even think I got past, well, I think I could squeak past Lucian. But, like, every time I got to Cynthia, I only got past, like, one of her Pokemon. Because I just didn't know how to play the game yet. But, like, there's technically endgame content after that. But I play until I feel complete with the game. Or, until I feel like it doesn't have anything else to give me. But generally, I will be completionist as well. The problem is I'm also a chronological person, so if I want to play, like, the 8th game in the series, sometimes I'll go and play, like, the other 7 before it. But it really does depend. I mentioned in the last series my whole thing with, like, the Yeast series, and why I'm probably going to start with the 9th in the most recent entry, instead of, like, going backwards. Because also, at the same time, like, Fire Emblem, I technically jumped in the middle, and that was the best thing for me. I would never recommend someone to start the Fire Emblem series at the beginning, because it's kind of like Final Fantasy. It doesn't matter where you start. It's more like start in the place where you're most likely to get a good, hearty, like, idea of what the series is about, if you're going to do a series, and then, go from there. If you like it, you like it, and you go try another game. If you don't like it, then you can try a new series. There are optional quest bosses. Collectibles, I tried to do it all. By the time I'm done with the game, I don't want to touch it again. That sounds like Madeline playing Fire Emblem. And she talked about this last time. Like, she did, like, every support, like, possible. That was the conversations between characters. Hours upon hours upon hours. And she's like, yeah, by the end of that, she didn't want to play it anymore. I won't do that. I will play until I feel satisfied. Most of the time, I do not do optional quests. Ni no Kuni actually was one of the rare times I actually did every quest. I didn't complete everything in the game because there was, like, a battle arena, and again, I did not like the combat system in that game because it just moved so slowly, and it was kind of random in some ways. So I never did the battle tournament, so I didn't complete the game. I never did that, but I did every quest, and you had to grind. There's, like, this one that you have to get, like, a special axe for. I had to grind so much to get one drop on a certain kind of enemy, and I'm like, and that's why I don't do quests all the times on JRPGs, because it takes forever. Anyway, I need to get back to this list, or I'm never going to gain progress. So we're looking at this Otome game here. I honestly can't remember the story of this one. I do love the art style, though. I like the hard lines. I'll put it on the new games list, because I can't really remember anything I get about or against it, so we'll put it on there for now. Okay, Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle. Let's see, what does this one look like? I love how I'm Googling all these, because some of these I totally forgot what this game is. Oh, yeah, I remember this one. I literally bought this game initially because I was a fan of Ruby at the time. I bought it twice. I bought it once digitally because it was like $5, and I noticed Ruby was on the cover. I'm like, oh, I love Ruby. And then I bought the physical version because it was for the PS5, and the original one I had was on Switch. So I don't mind buying games twice that's for two different consoles, because, like, PS5 is why I buy it for quality. Switch is why I buy for portability. So, like, I don't mind having two versions of a game. I think I do that with a lot of Sonic games now, because usually I'll, like, get on the console I want at, like, full price, or mostly full price, and then if it goes on sale, like, I own every copy of Balan Wonderworld. I have it on every console, but that's because I bought the first one for $60, and every one after that was, like, $15, so. And I love that game. So, it was only until later I realized, like, oh, and there's Persona 4 characters. I didn't even recognize that, because the only game I've kept myself, almost completely spoiler-free from is Persona 4. I played a lot of Persona 3. I still don't know the endings, and, no spoilers, obviously, in that. I played Persona 5, I think 4 times. So if you want to talk about wasting hours there, I've beaten Persona 5 repeatedly. In a short amount of time. We actually got through the game the first time in, like, a month and a half. Like, when you really put your mind to something, you can You can beat a long game in a short amount of time if you really want to. It just, you have to tap into that hyperfixation part of your brain. I'm gonna put this on for later one because this is a fighting game. That's gonna be like a casual thing. That's not gonna be like a beating game. And I'm looking for games I want to beat. Okay, Bravely Default 2, by nature of being a sequel, is automatically going to go for the for later list because I'm not going to play that until I play the first game. Okay, Bug Fables. Oh, I remember this one. This is a game I saw again on like an underrated JRPG list. And this one I believe is supposed to be like, it's based off like the Paper Mario art style, as you can kind of see here. Where you have like, you have like characters in a little like Paper Mario kind of style with combat. And like, I don't believe it's a long experience, but it's clearly Paper Mario but bugs. So, I don't know anything about the story. I literally, again, you're going to notice a theme with these games as we go along. I buy a lot of things, especially if they're on sale, based off of aesthetics. So I don't immediately click with the art style. It's usually a hard sell for me. That's why it took me so long to play Dragon Quest XI, even though now it's considered one of my 10 out of 10 games. Which, off the top of my mind is like Persona 5 and like Sacred Stones. Like games I think are just really peak of what they could be for the series. I didn't play Dragon Quest for forever because I didn't like the art style, and then it was like, well, I actually came to love the art style just because I love the game. But, yeah, so this is supposed to be essentially like Paper Mario. I don't believe it's a long game, so I'll put that on my to-play list because it'd be nice to have some more shorter games on here. Okay. This is one that I will definitely put on my playlist. This is the second Otome game I bought. Because you're going to see a little bit. I've mentioned this before. I love playing like renegade sort of characters. So the idea in this particular Otome game is that you're this girl in the back. But your main character has the ability to essentially go back in time. And so you meet this is a group of criminals, essentially. They're like swindlers of some sort. And so you go and meet this guy in the beginning. You see him get shot. And so you go back in time to save his life, unintentionally become essentially their getaway driver, and become like part of this underground like crime ring. And then you realize, there's more going on than that. You're essentially an investigative reporter. And so I got this one just because that sounds like such an engaging story. I love the idea of like being in like a criminal ring, like a heist crew. That's essentially what this is. They're like a heist crew. And again, I've brought this up before, but I really like the art style of these games. I bought most of them purely because I like the art style. So, like, of the ones that I want to play at some point, this one's definitely very high on terms of the games I, like, want to play at some point in terms of, Otome games. Again, the reason I haven't played any of them yet is kind of the same reasons I've not played a lot of JRPGs yet, is because, again, you have to sit with them. These are voiced, I wouldn't want to rush them. I'd probably go through them with a guide just so that I could, like, speed up the process, but, like, there's, I don't know. I don't know. I went through a phase where I buy a lot of Otome games just because I love the artwork. That's kind of what it is. I mean, come on, look at this guy. His name is Limbo. That's the best. I love names that sound vague and stuff like that. So we'll put that over here. We'll play that one eventually. This is one I got because again it was recommended to me by a friend and it was on sale. So Caden's a Hyrule. I don't know if anyone's played that one before, but I had a friend again who played this a lot and told me it was good. And again, I got it for like $5. A lot of games I bought on sale. But it's a rhythm-based game. I do generally like rhythm-based games if they're well done. So, I have no experience / real interest in the Legend of Zelda series. It's just, I didn't get into JRPGs or RPGs really at all. I didn't realize they were really a genre until, like, middle school, which is where I played Fire Emblem for the first time. And realized JRPG was a genre of games. So I just never really got into these. I've not heard much about this game one way or the other. again, I'm lukewarm on Legend of Zelda stuff. So I'll probably put that on the for later list for now, because I'm not particularly drawn to playing it. So Cafe Enchante, I believe, is another Otome game, if I'm correct. Yeah, it's another Otome game. So all Otome games have like a twist to them. So this one, in the case, is where you run a cafe, and except for it's a cafe for supernatural creatures. So, you know, you have like demons and devils and like ghosts and stuff like that. And, you know, I like the fact that like the love options are all these supernatural creatures, and then there's one who's just like this old grizzled guy. Because you always have to have that one, like the old guy who just needs a drink. You always need that love interest. So, I'll play that one at some point. It's supposed to be much more of a cozy game with lesser stakes, but the characters are still kind of like, you know, they always have the dark twist to them. Okay, let's see what else we got here. This one, this one has to go to the for later pile. This one is a game that's in Japanese only. This is during a time, first of all, it was $10, and second of all, it was after I watched a video that said how to learn Japanese by playing video games. So that was supposed to be my game to test that theory on. I've not done that yet, so we're obviously not playing that one yet. Chained Echoes, I think I remember this one. Again, a lot of these games I got from like lists that said top 10 JRPGs. Yeah, so this one I remember making a lot of noise at the time. It came like right before Sea of Stars came out, which, you know, obviously shook people. This is like, again, because it's amazing how you put some good pixel art on something and it gets people's attention. I believe this is a turn-based RPG. And also it is, like, look at that cute little pixel art. So I don't know really anything about the story. Again, I buy a lot of games off of Vibes. But I remember hearing really good things about this game. It also kind of takes you back to a simpler time when you did just play adventure games without really knowing what they were. You're just like, oh. You know, like, so I feel like sometimes, especially, this is kind of what got me out of reading novels, actually, very regularly. It's like, there, you know, it used to be a time when you just pick things up, just to pick them up and try them. And then you start researching and looking in what did this person say, what does that person say. That was how our world changed thanks to social media, but it's just, you know, sometimes you like to go and be like, I looked at the cover and I played the game because it looked cool. Because, yeah, you shouldn't always judge a book by its cover, but sometimes, you know, cover art exists for a reason. You know, sometimes that's the whole point. If it looks cool, that's why I started playing Fire Emblem in the first place. I picked it up because it had a dragon on it, and I like this kind of sepia, old, English-looking art style. So, and also because it had cool pixel art. So, we'll put that one on the to play later list. There's going to be a lot of these ones in the middle. There are ones I literally just got because they're on sale. So I don't really remember anything around them. I think this one's a fighting game. Yes, I got from PlayAsia. And again, I can't resist a limited edition, especially when it's cheap. So I got this just because it was on sale and it was limited. I believe this is a fighting game. I don't really care for fighting games, so we're going to put that over here for now. Things, again, this doesn't necessarily mean I'll never play it. It just means it's not on my to-play list for, like, the next year. Because there's a lot of them, and I need to get through these at some point. These, I believe, are also visual novels that are based off the Steins Gate games. If I remember correctly. Again, they were on sale, and I got 2 of them for 1. Although, I think if I'm correct, they're, like, not even the first in the series. They're, like, supposed to be, like... I've heard a lot of things about Steins Gate and anime and how it's, like, really influential and stuff, but I never got an anime because it's probably for good reason. I probably would have been, IRA was really into things in a weird way as a kid because, again, special interests and not knowing that my brain was built differently. Probably a good thing I never got into anime. Because even just going one anime at a time can be very, I think every anime so far that I've watched, I've, like, gone obsessively too far into, and then, like, been stuck in it for 6 months, so it's probably good I never got into anime as a kid. So many interesting looking games, I haven't heard of some of them before. Well, the thing is I usually buy things either on aesthetics, or I'll go and watch lists that are, like, top 10 lesser known JRPGs. or I started watching this channel on YouTube called Physical Paradise, which will go through like all the releases happening on a week by week basis, but not just in like English games. They'll be like, this one's only in Europe, or they'll be like imports from Japan, you know, and stuff like that. Like, because you can usually get games a lot cheaper on like PlayAsia and stuff, but if they're from Japan, or VGP is Canadian, so sometimes I just got games because they were cheaper overseas, or they stuff like that. So this one was a steelbook. That's why I bought it. It was a steelbook with 2 games. It was like $20, which is really nice for a steelbook, so I got it for that reason. I don't think it's the first in the series, though. That's why I just got it to have it. I'm going to put it over here for now. Okay, Charade Maniacs, I believe, is another Otome game. I have a lot of Otome games. I've not played any of them. Because they're like reading books. Okay, so the reason I bought this one, we're going to hear all the stories about why I bought so many Otome games that I've never played. I've not played a single one. So if I remember correctly, Charade Maniacs. Is this the one that's like a game show? Or is this the one where they're like... I think this is either the one where they're on a game show in like a Danganronpa style. One of them is out to betray all of you and get you all killed. You have to figure out who that person is. Pretty sure that's what this one's about. But honestly, the Otome games are usually done by like the IF Company or like gosh, what's the other one called? Not Atlas. It's not something else with A. I'll remember. Anyway, Idea Factory here makes a lot of these, but there's also another company that does a lot. That they have this really nice art style I just love the look of. Not to mention, they always have like... Sometimes game covers look very boring or very computer generated. Like, you know, no offense to like the games that like look cute and stuff like that, but like with Nintendo and stuff, but like sometimes game covers just don't look very interesting. I love that no matter what, Otome covers are always like made like artwork. That's why they draw me in. I'll be like, yeah, $30, I'll pay for that. I might never play this game, or I might not play it anytime soon. I'm like, look at that art style. Look at that art. It looks like I'm reading an anime. Doesn't it look cool? Pretty sure this is the one that I'm trying to remember, because I looked these all up at some point. I also watched a lot of videos that were like top 10 visual novels, and so like a lot of Otome games fall into those. I'm pretty sure this is one like where they're on like a game show or something like that, and like you have to figure out who like the traitor is. I cannot remember though. We'll put that, since I've already put quite a few Otomes on this one. I'm going to put a few of them over here because I will play them at some point, but if I don't put some of them on the for later pile, I'm never going to get through this list. We're making good progress though. We're at 75, so that's 25 games down. Okay, this one I believe is a indie game, which actually just got a physical not too long ago by Limited Run. So Chicory, A Colorful Tale. This is one I bought because it kind of speaks to me as an artist. So the whole idea is that like Chicory is this like rabbit person who's like kind of like gone missing. So you're this character who was like her friend, and you have to bring color back to the world by painting it. And I just thought that was a cool concept. I've heard a lot of good stories about this game, a lot of good reviews. You know, it looks cool. It's a cool looking game. Also, it kind of reminds me of the Anyone Remembers Drawn to Life, where you had like draw your creatures. It kind of reminds me of that. So yeah, that's a game I want to play at some point. It also looks like it'd be like a shorter game. I don't want all these games to be super long. Child of Light. Child of Light, I believe, was another game that I found because Lindsay Sterling did music for it, so I went and checked it out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she did a story of this. So this one, I believe, is actually a turn-based RPG. I don't know a lot about this one. Besides, I think it's a turn-based RPG. So I don't know a whole lot about this game. I mean, the art style is cool. I like it has this flowy aesthetic to it. I don't know, I probably have to look at a trailer or a summer or something. Let's see if I can find. I don't know anything about this game at all, because I think I did buy it just because it was on sale. A young girl, let's see. A young girl from 1895 wakens a lost fairy comet mirror. Turn around, she must fight the dark creatures of the Queen of the Night who have stolen the sun, the moon, and the stars. This takes not only the Maria, but the Aurora's true destiny. It's funny how when you read a lot of things, like you can read like essentially the same like idea on an adventure game like 20 times, but it can still be interesting depending on how it's portrayed. Because we really like it has really good reviews. It just has a cool. I like the watercolor art style. I won't be playing any audio on these things because that way it's not gonna have to worry about playing sound and getting in trouble or something. This looks like a little exploration and a little bit of combat, like turn-based combat, I guess. Sounds like your standard adventure game affair. I mean, the art style is cool, and it looks like it has a lot of positive reviews. So you know, I'll put that on the new games list. I'm trying not to just choose things I know of. I'm trying to choose the ones that I don't always know of. So what is? Oh, Coffee Talk's one I definitely want to play. I almost played this on stream several times. Hey, what's up, gamers? I'm going through my my 500 plus gaming list to go and choose what I am and not going to play for like the next year. So the first step into that process is going through all those games and essentially, one, remind myself what I own, and then two, choosing like what I'm going to play now, what I'm going to play later, and what I might replay for the sake of like streaming or videos and stuff like that. So right now I'm just kind of going through my list. We're currently on number 77. But I'm going through that list and just trying to determine what I want to play. I heard such great things about Coffee Talk at the time. So sometimes you just want a cozy game, and the thing that kind of spoke to me about this one is, one, it kind of has mythical creatures, but also it's dialogue heavy, but more importantly, you get to be a barista. I love, like, food making games, just as a fun little thing. So I originally got this digitally, but then they came out with a special limited edition that had both 1 and 2, and I wanted to play it on stream, like, a couple times. Like, as soon as I got it, I honestly wanted to play it on stream, but we were doing something else at the time. We were like in the middle of a series, maybe. But like I had a limited edition that came with like an actual, pretty largely sized coffee cup. I definitely wanted to like drink on stream while playing this game, so I definitely want to play this game. Sometimes you just want something that has a simple sort of premise like that, you know. It came with like a tea cloth. It came with like the little acrylic stands. It had an art book. Like, it was a really nice limited edition. And it had both games physically, because normally these are digital-only games. But, you buy the special edition, you can get them physical. And then they released for limited run, and then they were easier to get, but... yeah, I definitely want to play that one at some point. I hear that's not a long game, either. Colax Malice, I believe, is another Otome game. Which will probably go on the for later list, because I remember this one, I think, being a very heavy one. Yeah, so... the premise of this Otome is that your main character has a collar bomb around their neck, and so you have to essentially figure out who put it there in order to get it off, and you have to use the help of like your different characters who are like different detectives and killers and whatnot, and you know, you have to figure out who did it, how to get it off, and stuff like that. It's supposed to be a much darker one. Apparently you have to go through a lot of the bad endings in order to find the true ending, which is not uncommon in these sort of games. Do want to play this one at some point, but it'll probably be a for later game, just because I know this one's supposed to have a much darker story than the other ones. So I think I don't want to cut my teeth on an Otome game that's darker. I want to start with one that's a little more lighthearted. Okay, Koromon. And let's see. Yep, Koromon and Nexomon are probably the ones that people know most well for being like Pokemon likes. I kind of bought these just because, like, much like I'm looking for any game that can, like, replicate the Fire Emblem experience to me, I'm also looking for any other games. I don't want a replacement for Pokemon necessarily. like, I have other games to play. I got Digimon, I got Ni no Kuni, I got Spectrobes. I got options if I want to play other creature collectors. Monster Hunter Stories was a game that I was playing recently. Well, not recently, but a game I deeply enjoyed. But I just kind of like playing these monster catchers because I like monsters in general. And I also like seeing how they all differ, you know? Pokemon's my easy, like, comfort game, but I would not say by any stretch of the imagination it's the best. Or even the most impactful experience, but, you know. So, yeah, I'd like to try this one just to see how it compares to Pokemon. Let's see. Cross Tails. They're bringing back so many memories of games I bought, like, because there was a massive sale. Okay, this is another one that I bought, the Asian edition because it was significantly cheaper. So this is supposed to be an RPG. I heard that there were mixed opinions about this one because of the story. But as of lately, when I hear people go and, like, judge JRPGs, I've listened less and less to people who say the story is good versus bad. Because I feel as the genre grew, and more importantly as social media grew, people's judgment of storytelling has gotten kind of skewed. I've said this before when I talk about the problem with calling an anime mid. Is that I'm like, honestly, sometimes you need a lot of mid experiences because we don't always want to hurt when we hear a really impactful story. Because even a really greatly told story, it does sit with you for a while. And you don't want to go from that experience one after the other after the other. It's just too heavy for you. So sometimes you just need a good feel, good time. That's why, like, I like good gameplay. I definitely want great aesthetics. But, like, I want good stories, but I also don't want, like, objectively good stories. Like, example, Last of Us Part 2, never played the game all the way through. Namely because I did try and play the first game at least twice. I don't like zombie games. I don't like stealth survival games. It's stressful for me, and I don't get anything out of it. It's honestly why we were playing Resident Evil 8. I appreciate the game vastly as an art piece. The gameplay's not doing anything for me. I was honestly more annoyed than anything else. Because I don't care for those type of combat. I'm not great at shooters. I got shaky hands. Sorry, I just hit the mic. But, I will have to drink periodically because I am still working through this cold. But, I think that, like, lately, when people, here's the big case in point. I'll lightly bring out the soapbox and I'll put it away, I promise. Fire Emblem Engage versus Fire Emblem Three Houses. The amount of people that went in to review Fire Emblem Engage singing its praises in every category. Great animation, great return to gameplay, great new maps, but the story's not that great, so therefore it's a lesser game than Three Houses. I'm like, that's funny, because Three Houses has the opposite problem. It has a great cast of characters, great voice acting, the school mechanics are well implemented, but the story is honestly a bit confusing at times, especially if you only play one path. And the gameplay is honestly some of the weaker in the series. It reuses maps like nobody's business, which makes it very hard to grind. And also just kind of boring in the later levels. And, like, you can break the system so easily because they removed the weapon triangle, they made it so any character could go into any class. It's very easy to break the game. But a lot of people laud, again, Three Houses as the better made game because it's got that good cast of characters and it has a political story, so therefore it's doing something deeper. So to go back to The Last of Us also, by the way, I respect greatly as a series. Its writing is great. The motion capture are honestly good. Did they need to re-release it 4 times? No, but I do respect the series. But it's like not every game should be that. Not every narrative-driven story should be that. Because if the only stories we can tell are the ones that have to viscerally hurt, then what does that say about us as a society? I think fluff and romance are just as important. Comedy is just as important. As writing a tragedy, as writing about the dirtiness of humanity. I think we need both. I think sometimes having... I remember I mentioned this on my last stream. Why do we tell stories about knights slaying dragons? Because, kids already know monsters exist. They just need to know they can be defeated. So even if it's the simplest of, I'm just a knight going, like, Fire Emblem. I love the game. Why do I love it more than any other JRPG besides the fact that, you know, I have my opinions. But the core reason why do I prefer it over any other JRPG series, and why have I not been able to find anything else that is the same as Fire Emblem? Because most of the big JRPGs went in the, we got to get more cynical route, we have to get more grayscale, we have to go for the action-based combat. Fire Emblem and Dragon Quest is the other series that I got into recently that I found has a very similar vibe. It knows what it does well. It's willing to tell you a tried and true story of, like, you know, you're usually a noble of some sort who's been attacked by an evil force, and you are going to round up your friends and allies to fight against the darkness and come out victorious. Sometimes, honestly, especially when life gets hard, sometimes you need a story like that. Dragon Quest is very similar. It does deep things. It has deeper themes. I love the fact that Dragon Quest XI is not afraid to shy away from some dark topics. But at the end of the day, it is about you, the chosen one, the one chosen by the light, to conquer the darkness. And sometimes you need that sort of story. And, I won't say anything poor, because I definitely do think other types of stories exist. But lately, whenever you're looking for a tactical game, or you're looking for a lot of JRPGs, they get really deep and dark in the weeds. And you're like, I know this probably has a payoff at the end of it, but I'm just kind of getting depressed. Or like they're gray and lifeless. Why do I think people played so much of Genshin Impact in the beginning? Because it was a bright and colorful game. Not in a bad way, by any means, but just most of the other things at the time were kind of dark, you know? Breath of the Wild, Legends Arceus, Song Frontiers all have these kind of melancholy epininess, which I love those games for their respective styles. But if everything's doing that, then it's not special anymore. So, again, back to Cross Tales here. This is one of those RPGs that I remember hearing, like, not glowing reviews for. But it's a tactical game. You see it has kind of I hear a lot of people relate this to Final Fantasy Tactics with, you know, the tactical things. It's got a fairly simple story of essentially, like, you know, saving there's two races. You have, like, the dog people and the cat people, and they're kind of in a war, and so you go back and forth between, like, these two characters trying to bridge the gap between their species, and, you know, I hope they fall in love with it at the end, if that's what their story's meant to be. Because, you know, sometimes you just like, I personally like a story of just people, through trial and tribulation, putting aside their differences and coming together for a common goal and having a good ending. Like, honestly, more of the Fire Emblem games that lately that do have that, like, that's why I love Three Houses, I do. But there are just sometimes where I go and look at it from the outside and be like, man, this game shouldn't have worked for how many things it's doing. It did work, but then I look at, like, Three Hopes, where they try and change things just slightly, and you realize how much it all falls apart, like, how much the lore falls apart, the politics, the characters become lifeless. Like, it was running on some weird wheels, which is why I vastly prefer Fire Emblem Engage. Because while it is a simpler story, Fire Emblem Engage is essentially the Sonic Generations of Fire Emblem. It's a celebration of the series' history in what makes a core Fire Emblem game versus any other JRPG. I definitely want to do a video of some sort, or a review of the series, but most especially of Fire Emblem Engage, because I feel like the online gaming sphere really knuckled that game, because, like, okay, the gameplay's fine, but it's too bright and colorful. It looks like Genshin Impact. And I'm like, first of all, why is that a bad thing? Genshin Impact is so freaking popular. And, you know, if you can't beat them, join them. And also, story is subjective at the end of the day. I think the biggest thing, you can have a feel for pacing. You might like or dislike something. But I think the idea of a well-written story or an impactful story is very subjective, and while it should be important, if the game touched you because of its story, you should spread that and share that. Or if it had a great build-up and then it kind of fell flat at the end, also share that, but all at the same time. If the story is trying to tell you a simple story, you shouldn't mark it down for doing that. If it's a JRPG that didn't decide to tell you about the end of the world and, you know, humanity corrupted the earth, and, you know, this person backstabbed you or whatever, you know, like, it's not telling you a Last of Us story, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think sometimes a simple story is a good story. I played a lot of JRPGs that I've enjoyed because the story wasn't complicated and that I could focus on the gameplay. Now, granted, if you don't have good gameplay, you don't have a good story, you probably don't have a good game. But, okay, we already talked about this one. This one is with this series. But, you know, I think it's something that needs to be kept in mind, especially as I play a lot of narrative-based games, a lot of JRPGs myself. I've been taking it far less lately, taking it with a grain of salt when people say, play this game because it has a great story, or this game's story kind of falls apart. I'm like, that's very subjective, I think, sometimes. It also depends, especially if it's part of a franchise. Sometimes it actually probably has a perfectly fine story, but it might not be up to the caliber of the other games in the series. So sometimes I try and take a step back and be like, okay, if I was an outsider coming into this franchise for the first time, is the story serviceable? And most of the time, the answer is yes. Which is why I don't like the term mid as a term. Because sometimes having a perfectly average story, even maybe a predictable story, why do we like watching heist films or like mysteries or like stuff like that? Most of the time they follow the same tropes. Why do we like spy movies and other type of genres? They follow a lot of the same building blocks and tropes. Like, as long as they're well constructed and the person has an idea of what they're doing with the genre and with the storytelling, I'm like, it doesn't have to be the next, like, Mona Lisa. It doesn't have to be the next big oh yeah, I remember this one. Again, I'm not sure I'm going to play this right now, but this is, this Otome game. Let me take a drink here. It actually just got a sequel disc, which sometimes is a sequel and sometimes is other things. So, the idea for this Otome game, apparently this is a very comedy-based one, so since I was buying so many dark ones at the time, I decided to get a couple that are supposed to be lighthearted. So, the idea is that you're playing as Cupid, the goddess of love, and you're essentially given a challenge by, like, your dad to, find, like, essentially cure these parasites of love, where you have, like, these 5 bachelors who are supposed to be completely, like, unlovable. You're supposed to find perfect matches for them by trying to date them yourself, of course. Because, you know, Otome game. And so, you know, they all have this serious, like, issue, and you have to go in and be like, it's literally the I can fix them trope, but the game. But apparently it's very comedic, it's very heartwarming. And, you know, it does have some occasional deeper things, like why each of the bachelors is the way they are, but I've heard very good things about this one. This is one that usually when you go into an Otome top 10 list, everyone usually mentions this one. So, I put it on there. I think kind of storytelling have evolved. Bigger game companies want to make it with style plots. Yeah, well, I mean, kind of that's also the problem with, but I agree about more simple stories. That's kind of also the problem with graphics lately, isn't it? Like, higher and higher definition, there's eventually a point where you reach a ceiling and you're like, you can't get any more high definition. Eventually you have to reinvent the wheel. I've always said that high definition will always fall down to art style. Because, you know, that stuff ages, but a well-stylized game usually will last way longer. Like, Persona 5 will probably be still just as much fun to play 10 years from now. It's already, like, 10 years old as it is. But it's such a well-stylized game that it kind of hides any graphical problems it has. So, like, you know, same thing with stories. I'm like, yeah, everyone wants to be The Last of Us. Everyone wants to get that. Oh, yeah, I do miss colorful, stylized games. That's why, you know, I think that's why a lot of people got attracted to Genshin Impact, to be entirely honest with you. I mean, yeah, it was also coming right off the high from Breath of the Wild. We were in the open world craze, which is where they put open world on literally everything, even if it really didn't make sense for it to be there. Case in point, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But, everything had to be an open world game, which is why I'm like, I don't dislike open world games. I just unfortunately played like 5 of them in a short period of time that really shouldn't have been open world, and it made the game worse for it. If you're going to make an open world game, you gotta know the genre going in. Anyway, but I think a lot of people were drawn into Genshin Impact purely because it is colorful and stylized. The character art is beautiful. A lot of people compared Fire Emblem Engage to Genshin Impact in terms of its art style. And you know, it's the worst thing, some people are like, it's too colorful. I'm like, have you seen the previous Fire Emblem games? Yeah, sure, Three Houses gave us a little bit more realistic style, in terms of like art, but like Fire Emblem generally has been a high fantasy sort of game. Not in terms of like literal high fantasy of everything being magical and stuff, but like it's always definitely looked on the more fantastical side. Just the world with dragons and magic and junk. I think if you're going to go into the more fantasy side of things, especially, or the super futuristic, you gotta have a colorful art style. Otherwise, you're not gonna have a way to distinguish yourself. I've already passed up on 2 tactical games into my for later list because I'm looking at the covers, because I'm mostly going off of covers right now. Unless I really can't remember the game and then I'll look at a trailer, but I'm looking at the covers and I'm looking at the gameplay and being like, this is kind of gray and not memorable. Like, I may have been excited for this game at some point when I originally bought it, but I can't remember now, and looking at it, it's just gray and, like, too many war games look that way. I mean, I just think stylization will always be stronger at the end of the day. Anyway, so I'm going to... Gosh, do I put this on for the later or do I put this for now? So on one hand, it probably would be good to have a comedic game. I need to stop putting every Otome on my to-play list, or else I'm never going to get through any of them. I don't know. Should I put this one on my to-play list or for the later list? I have like 16 Otome games, by the way. I've already put 3 of them on there. I have to say no to some of them, or I'm never going to get through them. Oh, no. Which ones do I already have on here? I have Cafe Enchante, Bustafels, and Brushana. I'll put it on for now. I can always take it off later. Okay, let's see. This is another Otome game. I bought so many of them. I was really in a phase at the time. Also, a lot of them were pretty cheap. So this one I'll probably put on for later, because again, I do have to put some of them for later. But this one, I think, if I remember correctly, is an older one, because you can tell from the art style. And this one's you're like a secret agent that goes and like acts as a diplomat to a bunch of different like supernatural species, and there's like some sort of like murder or serial killer thing going on. So you have to like... Maybe that's also why I'm drawn to these games. I'm missing colorful stylized games, and you can't get much more colorful and stylized than this, right? Pretty. Anyway, I don't remember a ton about this one, so we're going to put it for later, because I have to say for later for some of these games, or I'll never get through them all. Oh, Dark Deity. Now, this is one I've wanted to play. Namely, because when this game came out, everyone compared it to Fire Emblem. Everyone looked at this game and said, this is Fire Emblem. And I don't think it definitely wears that on its sleeve. Like, look at this. Like, if I went and showed you this screen graphic, if you play a Fire Emblem game, would you not assume this was a Fire Emblem game? Like, the art style doesn't quite look like Fire Emblem. Well, look, you got, like, the red and blue HP bars, you got the pixel art, you have the hit chance, damage, crit rate. You even got relationships with rankings. It's a very Fire Emblem looking game. And I remember I watched someone play, like, the first few minutes of it and say, like, this is the next Fire Emblem. I don't know what ever became of the game. But, like, look at it. This looks like Fire Emblem. Now, that could be a good thing, or that could be a bad thing, because, you know, it's flattering, but at the same time, if it doesn't hold up to the, legacy of Fire Emblem, if you imitate too closely, then people are just going to compare you. But, I always think it's funny when they do elves with the super long ears. I think that looks weird to me, but, you know, I don't know where that trait ever came from for elves. Who would decide they had super long ears? And the art style looks good. So I definitely do want to play this one, because I want to compare it and see, like, how does this hold up. I've heard good things about it. I bought this one digitally. I do regret doing that, because it's now out physically. I should have just waited until it came physical. I always will prefer having a physical cartridge. I would like to play this. If it's good, I'd be willing to get it physically. But, like, come on, let's get some colorful stylized stuff going on up in here. I hear this is like a spiritual successor to Fire Emblem, so I definitely want to play that one at some point. Death Ends. We'll put 2 on the... Obviously, I'm not going to play 2 until I play 1, so we'll put that one over there. Death End Request 1. I think this is a game that's in the same vein of Sword Art Online, where you're like a game developer and you get stuck inside a game, and so you have to like play in order to get your way out. I think this is a tactical one. It's very anime in the way that like when they do their super powerful suits, they get far less clothes on. So definitely a little bit one of those games, but I've heard good things about this one. This is again another game that came up on a lot of forgotten JRPG quests or like underrated JRPGs. So once it, yeah, see, not enough to be like, you know, raise your rating, but definitely like, oh, power up, and she suddenly has nothing on. We'll put this one for later. I do want to play that one at some point, but I need to say no to some of these games. Degrees of Separation. I got this one actually originally for me and Madeline to play, because it's a game that really needs a 2-player mode. So again, the idea is it's based on this. So you have an ice person and a fire person, and you have to go and do things on both sides in order to progress forward. This is a game that you definitely need 2 people for. So like, it's a puzzle solver with, you know, one having ice and one having fire abilities. Maybe I'll play that on stream at some point, but probably not anytime soon. Like Pikachu Returns. Obviously, I will not play until I beat the first one, which I have not yet. Yeah, this is one that I will put on. This will definitely be going on the replay one. Gosh, this is a game that just shook me so much. I played it over the course of many weeks in college, and I've always loved Digimon because it like, a lot of people are like, if you don't like what Pokemon's doing, or you want a more mature story or a more complex battle system, go play Digimon. More importantly, go play Digimon Cyber Sleuth. You get to be a detective and solve mysteries, but also the combat's really good. And look, the animation, like, full 3D animation, has so many Digimon to get. There's no way you can remember that. Yeah, Digimon Cyber Sleuth, let me tell you. That's a good game. Now, here's the thing. I've not completed. I've been this one 1.5 times. I actually got stuck in the middle because I was trying to make a really powerful Digimon, and then, I don't know, I just stopped playing it, so when I came back, I forgot. I want to play Hacker's Memory, mainly because I want to get this Digimon. She's from, Digimon Dusk, which I really enjoyed as a game. I completed both Dusk and Dawn on the DS, twice, and I played the DS games twice. I definitely think Digimon is the superior monster catcher game, especially because it just has a way better storyline and lore. But, you know, Pokemon's more accessible. It's an easier game to play with your brain off. But I want to play Hacker's Memory purely to get this Digimon. Not even joking. Like, I want Lunamon in her, like, if there was any Pokemon I was going to get, I was like, if I had a partner in Digimon, it'd be Doramon first. And after that, probably be Lunamon. Like, they're like, I love every one of their evolutions. They're so cool. I also really like Betamon, because it turns into a really awesome sea dragon. But, yeah, that's definitely going on the replay list. I would love to play that. I don't know if I can play it on stream. It's a long game. It's a really long game. But it's also really good. Because, like, every time I thought I knew where the story was going, yeah, the Lunamon line is the best. Because it's your signature partner, like your Pikachu partner in Pokemon and in Digimon World Dusk. Which, of course, I had to play because that was my username at the time. But man, I love all its evolutions. They're just so cool looking. Yeah, those are good ones too. But, I remember I raised, regular Gatomon and Black Gatomon so I could get the one that's like the half angel, half devil, like, final evolution of them. Like, fusing, like, Angiwomon and Evewomon. Oh man, I have so many good memories of Digimon. But this is also a game that was really big with, at the time, like, also, yeah. Girl, I could go on and on about the Digimon I raised. I went, like, I did so much grinding to get some of them, because you have to get so much experience. I did so much grinding. And that was back when it was on the PS4, so, like, that was before it was portable on Switch. So much time in college wasted. But wasted well. Because I had the game, but I didn't own a PS4 at the time, so I was just gonna be like, I'll buy it and I'll get it later. My friend offered to lend me his PS4. He would just come over every so often and bring his PS4 with him, so I could play his game. Eventually, I started inviting him over because I needed to play the game more. This is what eventually convinced me to buy my own PS4 when they had a special edition version of it. Because literally, I just wanted to play this one game. I didn't I owned maybe 3 other PS4 games because I had such a bad experience with the PS3. I didn't want to try the PS4. Yeah, listen, you can waste so much time in Digimon. But, Digimon Cyber Sleuth, I remember playing it so often. I remember most famously when we had a really big snowstorm several years ago that, shut down all of Cameron Village. The power was out, so he was, stuck at our dorm. He stayed with us for a couple of days, and I just played Digimon so much. It was funny. But Digimon Cyber Sleuth, I will happily replay that again. I don't know if I can play on stream because it's a long game. It is a JRPG's JRPG. Great story, great gameplay, lots of twists and turns, great animation, great voice acting. It's all done in Japanese, mind you. It's a long game. If you're playing it properly, it's a long game, but not in a bad way. It's a creature corrector. A lot of it's going to be spent making creatures and finding the best team. If you're really speeding through, you can get through the game pretty fast. But, if you're spending your time with it and enjoying it, it should take you a while. It took me well over 80, 90 hours to complete it the first time, and even longer the next time, because then I had some more, special Digimon I wanted to make. That's I'm getting to Hacker's Memory, which I haven't even played yet. But, I would love to play through that game again. That's why I got on the Switch when it was available. Because, I can get the second game and the first game, and it's portable. I don't even have to be confined to my room when I'm playing it, because I only ever played it on the PS4. Oh, yeah. Such good memories of that game. It just has so many twists and turns. Every time you think you know where it's going, you're like, oh, this is going to end with us being the final boss. I'm like, no, what if you lost, and the world is now digitized, and you're fighting giant monsters now, and you're just every time you think the game's almost over, and then it isn't, and then, the ending hit me hard. What a great... Probably another one of my 10 out of 10 games. Such a good story. This is if you have to play only one Digimon game, play this one. Runner-up will be the Digimon Dusk and Dawn games for the DS, because those are also very good games. But I'm if you want any game that requires no prior Digimon knowledge, because the DS games do require a bit of previous Digimon knowledge, or at least understanding how the game's mechanics work. But if you want a game that literally will show you how to play and give you a great story, that if you see the hints, and you're like, oh, it's so cool. But if you don't know, then you don't need to. Digimon Cyber Sleuth is probably the best definitive. People are there's no definitive Digimon experience. This is probably as close as it's gonna get. I mean, there's some people who really like the Digimon World games. So I'm if you really want a creature collector Digimon game, that's the best. This is one I literally just bought for Black Friday. Epic Mickey Rebrushed. So we have a bit of a history of this game. Mallory played this game. She had to review a video game for a project. And we played this game for 2 hours. And we didn't get very far. And Mallory was so ready to kill me, the game, and our Wii after playing this because it was on the Wii. The controls were not very good. And we're not good at platformers. This is a bit of... This game, because it had, the original version had, the worst camera. It can be a very finicky platformer. But it was on sale. I actually briefly debated getting the, limited edition. It was just a little too high on my price range, because I don't... If I'm going to buy a higher priced, game, it's going to be, for, I'll go past the $100, range for a limited edition if it's a game I'm really excited for. Metaphor into Fantasio, or, when I got Persona 3 Reloaded. The special editions, they hurt my wallet every time. So hopefully there's not any other big ones coming up soon. But let me tell you, Persona 3 and Metroid Fantasio in the same year. Boy, I spent so much on limited editions this year. Because it has a really cool statue. It has some really cool posters. And I don't know, if I find it for, like, cheap enough, it was like $200. And that's too much for a game that I didn't really like the first time. Like, everyone loves Epic Mickey for its ideas. This is another game that, like, sold people on its aesthetics alone. I know, and I've bought many limited editions this year. Just, the Atlas ones are always, like, $200. When you add in shipping and everything. And I'm just like, oh, that's so much. But I also need it. Though, to be fair, I don't have a car. Because I don't drive. So, I'm not making car payments, at least. I'm just like, I don't drink, I don't drive, I don't have kids. I can talk myself into getting a big figurine or limited edition. Just, them both in the same year was just too much. They also have really good stuff. So I think this was like 170 or 180. I'm like, it was a really cool limited edition, but for what it was offering, especially when I wasn't sure that I was going to like the game, I don't know, I didn't jump on it, then it went out of stock. I'm like, well, clearly it wasn't meant to be. I did strongly debate, though, getting this. And I ever did find it again. Like, I think my maximum, I would maybe pay $150 if I could. You know, because I like ones that come with, like, a nice statue. I have my Shadow one I opened yesterday. So, we'll put that on here. I am curious, this has been the year of remasters, too. Can we also say that? Like, so many remasters came out this year. We had Persona 3 Reloaded, that one, Paper Mario. Okay, I'm gonna just skip that one. I'm obviously not playing that. That was another of my sister's games. Donut Country, I think, is a puzzle game. This has been a year of remakes. Oh yeah, this is one where you're like a hole and you have like suck everything in. So it's like a puzzle game. I don't know what the style is this game. This game just kind of looked at him like, this kind of looks like Untitled Goose Game or something. But essentially you're a hole in the ground that's trying to like suck up the entire like town. I think it's supposed to be like a puzzle game. I don't know if it actually even has a storyline, honestly. I don't know about this one. Again, I'm trying to make a distinction. Like, I want to play most of these games at some point. It's just a matter of, like, do I want to do it now when I really should be trying to get more off of my list so I don't have a huge list to parse through later? I do want to play it at some point, but we'll put it on the for later for now. Almost at 100. Here we are in the Dragon Quest era. Definitely a lot of these ones here. So this is one I'm just going to show for the showing stake. I'm definitely playing this one. I was excited for this one to come out because I originally actually got into Dragon Quest briefly during the DS era. Again, I was younger, so I didn't stick with it. I dropped a lot of games in the DS era. But I got into the original Dragon Quest monsters, or maybe Dragon Quest Monsters Joker, purely because I was looking for other creature collectors. It's the fact that they're like remastered version of that, where you can fight with monsters. Yes, please. Especially after I'm coming hot off of Dragon Quest XI and very much in love with the series right now. I'll happily play this. So, I think this one's supposed to have some connection. Dragon Quest IX, which one's that? Is that the one where it has like the create your own character one, where you like go into other people's worlds? The last one I was playing was Dragon Quest VII, I think. I was playing on my DS. So I played 11, felt head over heels in love with it. 10 out of 10 game. Highly recommend. Play the definitive edition. I think this one's supposed to be connected to one of the other games in the series. I don't know which one because, again, I've only played 11. I have a vague knowledge of all the other ones. But yeah, I'm definitely playing this because I want to play another creature character. I was very excited for that one when it came out. Again, but the problem was with this year, this year and last year have been so many good releases, but then I don't play them immediately because I want to enjoy them, and then they fall in the bottom of a pile. So Dragon Quest Treasures is another one I bought pretty early on. Again, when I was in the hype of my Dragon Quest phase. This is supposed to be like a prequel game to Dragon Quest XI because it has one of the main. This is like your main buddy / love interest if you want to read it that way. I certainly do. Of Dragon Quest XI to the main hero is you got these two, which I think he's a really cool character. I was kind of lukewarm on her, but this is again another one where you can go and like collect monsters. And you hunt for treasure. I don't actually know how long this game is. This might not even be a very long game. But the idea is that you can go and like collect monsters in order to help you search for treasure and find things. Yeah, this one goes on the playlist too. I need to say no to more of these games, but that one goes on there. I want to play that one too. So we will put Dragon Quest 11. Echoes of Elusive Age. I will put that one in the replay one because I definitely want to replay that one at some point. So I'm trying to leave myself some openings for other games that I don't always want a new experience. I want to revisit a comfort game. Anyone who hasn't played this game, try it out. I literally never tried Dragon Quest because I didn't really care for the art style. Dragon Quest 11 was the game that changed my mind because, man, the characters in that game are so well written. And they're not even super complicated. It's definitely the epitome of a simple and lighthearted story that just gets all the beats right. It's not afraid to tackle hard things, but it's also not going to go too deep into the hard things, because this, at the end of the day, is about heroes saving the world. See how much farther I can get. My throat's getting sore because I'm still sick. So we'll see how much farther I can go here. Let's, I guess let's try and get to the F's. Dragonstar Varnir. I vaguely remember this one. I have too many games. So this one I think is like partial tactical RPG, partial dating simulator. So the thing that, again, I'm drawn by anything that has dragon in the title. The idea is that there's these creatures that are witches, right? And the way it goes is that they all have, like, they've all been... Yeah, it's, that's why we're friends. But, no, me, my mom, and before that, Mally was sick earlier in the week, like last weekend. But, just had the worst cold. I've been, like, this is the most dry my nose has been in 3 days, and it's still puffed up and red and inflamed. I'm just not constantly sniffling. Now I'm in the point where I'm like, everything's just sore and hurts on the inside. And of course, you know, breathing's hard, so fatigue all the time. And then I got party tomorrow for band, and then I got a night parade, which I'm looking forward to because it's going to be so freezing. I'm still standing on Sunday. I'm just going to sleep, honestly. And I subbed on Wednesday, and I did my nanning as usual on Tuesday and Thursday, so I've only actually had, like, Monday to do anything for myself. Because after I get home from work, I'm just so tired. Anyway, this game. So, first off, obviously, I was drawn in by the fact that the artwork says dragon. Basic premise of this game, so you have these witches that are being hunted down by, like, this knight faction, right? The witches have this power that comes from having dragon's blood. And the idea is that, you know, they need enough of it to not go insane, but they have too much of it, they turn into dragons themselves. And, you know, rampage. So what happens is that, so they are, the main guy character you see here is one of the knights who like, hunted them down until he was, like, mortally wounded. And then, normally only females are supposed to be able to become witches. But so this girl goes and gives him like some of the dragon's blood to try and save his life, and instead of like dying, he becomes a witch too. So again, you have this issue of you, and now all the rest of the girls are kind of under your care. Have to have like this balance between like, you know, not going too far that you go insane, but not going too far that you become a dragon. And so it's also kind of a dating sim. You know, Japanese games gonna be like that. And so the idea is going to the heart of it and, like, you know, what's the truth behind the dragons and, you know, stuff like that. So it has an interesting enough combat idea. It has some interesting tactical RPG things. It has a lot to do with height. That's why I own so many Otome games, is that at the end of the day, I'm like, I love some good aesthetic romance options. I bought like 16 Otome games. I've not played any of them, but I bought them all with the idea of a, you know, interesting story hook and a bunch of very aesthetically pleasing guys. Off the top of my head, the one I definitely want to play, I played the demo of, is Steam Prison. I'm waiting for the sequel of that to come out. I played the demo of it, and I fell in love with the first guy. I'm like, all these other ones are good. But I can send you a video I watched that has like all the big top hitters. I'll put it in the Discord for you later, or I'll DM it to you later. But I watched this guy who lists like every Otome game out. But like Steam Prison's the one I played. I fell in love with the first guy, and even then it showed all the other bachelors. I'm like, I honestly would have gone with any of you. I'm glad I went with that guy because he's really my vibe. But all the other ones are great too. Anything from Idea Factory is usually pretty good quality. Yeah, I'll send you something. Anything by Idea Factory is usually pretty good. They've been doing, honestly, in the last few years, they've been translating a lot of the older Otome games and giving them art updates. So it's the Switch became, like, originally it was the PS, like, Vita. But the Switch lately has been, like, the godsend for Otome games because so many are getting ported there. And so it's a good time to get into it, is what I found. I just started buying them all over the place, and even now I'm like, this Black Friday I'm like, okay, the reason I'm not buying as many is because now I'm not buying them just the game. Now I'm buying them with the limited edition, because I'm like, I pay $60 for a game, and I pay $80 for the limited edition that gives me like an art book, like posters, a steel book, and like a coffee cup. I'm getting the limited edition. You know, it can have the stupidest premise, even if it's just like, here, this guy's an angel, this guy's a demon, who are you gonna date? I'm like, whoever has the better personality, and then I'll inevitably do the other guy just to see how he compares. But, yeah. I'm like, oh no, I should be buying this game just off of aesthetics, and then I played, like, the demo of Steam Prison, and it was steampunk, it has clockwork stuff, it had guys in long coats, that's all my stuff, with little glasses and things like that, you know, those are all my aesthetics. I fell in love with it. And I immediately bought it, and then bought it again when it came into physical. And again, I've only played the demo of it. I haven't played through the game yet. But I was just like, this is my jam right here, and I will play it at some point. Fortunately, then the problem was buying all of them at once, but I couldn't play any of them. Because I can't obviously play multiple games at once. So that's why those are all going on this list, eventually. I'll put this one on the playlist. It has dragon in the name. Also, I do remember them hearing that, like, the tactical, like, gameplay in that was interesting. Now I'm talking about, sometimes I just like being a guy that can transform into a dragon, you know? It's even better when I can be a girl that transforms into a dragon, but most of the time you are a male protagonist, so I'll take what I can get. I've heard very good things about this game. It's supposed to be like a beat-em-up action game. The main character reminds me of Yang from Ruby, which I thought is funny. I don't know a ton about it. It's supposed to be like an action beat-em-up game. I hear the second game is better, but obviously I want to start with the first one. I don't know a lot about it. I think you're beating up demons. Yeah, we'll put that on this game. What else we got? Earthlock. I believe it's an RPG. remember this one just because you can play as like a pig. This is an RPG. I don't remember what it's about off the top of my head, so I'm just going to put it in the for later pile, because I need to say no to some of these RPGs or I'm never going to get through them all. Because, you know, like Ixie brought up earlier, they do take a while. I think Uniden Chronicle Rising is supposed to be a prequel to Uniden. This was the game they made before the 100 Heroes one came out. Hypothetically, I guess I should play this before the 100 Heroes one. Oh yeah, you do play it. This is a kangaroo, by the way. It's a kangaroo with a giant sword. Which I think is funny. I don't know. I think it's supposed to have a very short story. But I already have Uniden Chronicles 100 Heroes. I guess I should play that one first and decide if I like it, and then I can come back to this one if I do. Ellie, I don't remember this one is. Oh, this, I remember this. There was like a sale from this one developer who was selling everything for like 60 cents. They're supposed to be puzzle games, if I remember correctly, so we're going to put those over here. Again, things I will play at some point, but I gotta put something, I have to put some things on a different thing. So this is a game that my friend DJ recommended to me. He really loves the Etrian INC series. So when they came out with a game that's like the first 4 games, or like first 3 games it seems, I'm like, well, I want to get into the series at some point. It's a dungeon crawler. The biggest thing I'm against, I'm not a huge fan. When I'm in a JRPG, I like the characters to be individual. And be like, this is actually my biggest issue in some of the later Fire Emblem games, is where you can turn a character into any class and it doesn't change. Like, the character's class, kind of like in the way of D&D, should mean something to the character. So if the character should come as, like, a Wyvern Rider or a thief, then that should say something about the character. It shouldn't be like, oh, it's a thief. But actually, you can also turn him into a mage and it makes no difference. So that was my biggest thing against, like, when he was just trying this game, so that you can turn your characters into anything you want. Oh, that's cool. There's Little Joker. And she's from Soul Hackers 2, which is another game I really need to finish. That was a good game. This is obviously a good game. Love him. I would love to dress up like him. He has the best coat. Oh, that's cool. They must have a Persona DLC or something. I think that's from Shimigami 5. That's from Reload, obviously. Okay. Anyway, getting back to business. So I want to try one of these games at some point. I'm not a huge fan of dungeon crawlers. Be a bit monotonous. So I got the collection with the intention of trying them at some point. The question is, do I really need to try them now? I put it on the no pile just because I need to take some of these bigger ones off. I will return to all of these at some point, but... Okay, this one, I'm pretty sure I only got because it was a steelbook for like 15 bucks. I like steelbooks. I've really gotten into collectors lately. So essentially, you're a rabbit in a steampunk world that has a giant mechanical fist. That's all I know about the game. Literally all I know about the game. Apparently it had decent combat. You're a rabbit with a giant mechanical fist. Don't know anything about it besides that. I literally got it just because it was cheap. So we're going to put that in the later pile because I don't really know anything about it. Again, I own a lot of games that are just, I got them just because I got them. It comes with a steel book. I probably bought it because it's 15 bucks. Okay, again, another game I bought purely because of the cover art. Fairy Fencer, Dark Advent. I don't remember this one. You know what? There is another game that looks just like this because I think it's by the same company. But it has an art style that looks just like this. But it's not related to this one. There's another game. I played this like this. I don't actually remember what the story about this one is because I always get confused with this other game that's very similar. Of which I got a steelbook. Because the problem is that some of these I got for like digital when they were on sale, which is regular. I can never remember which one goes which. This is the one with the mechas, right? There's one where the guy turns into a dragon, that's why I bought it, and then there's the other one that has like mecha witch things going on. I cannot remember, so we're gonna put this on the for later list. I can't remember it right off the bat, and I probably wasn't very excited to play it in the first place. Okay, FE. What's this one? FE is short for Fire Emblem, but in this case it's game. Oh yeah, I remember this. I bought this game purely because of the aesthetics. Look at that. That's so cool. It's creepy. It probably won't be a long game either. Yeah, I'll put that on the playlist. I need to have some shorter games on this list, honestly. Okay, Figment. I think is another indie game. I think it recently got a sequel. Oh. I say Switch. Forgot that was a Disney character. Yeah, it's this one. It's a puzzle platformer, I believe. Yeah, that's the thing I remember. This one. I've seen that recently. I think I also like the concept. It's the idea of like imagination and dreams, which I was really into at the time because I was coming off of Battle in Wonderworld. Okay. So obviously, goes without saying, this one will go on the replay list because I do want to replay it at some point. But obviously, after my own heart, Fire Emblem Engage. Man, I was kind of... It's a discussion for another time, potentially for an article. But gacha games, namely Fire Emblem Heroes, kind of burnt me out on Fire Emblem because... Not because of Fire Emblem. Because the mechanics in that game and the power creep got so bad. They instead of making a legacy game of including new Fire Emblem characters, they kept just adding more and more and more original characters to the point where the story doesn't really make sense anymore. And again, power creep. So, just got ridiculous after a while. And all of them have to be girls with huge chests and skimpy shirts. And like, again, I don't mind that, but give me some variety. At least make them look different. Don't just change their hair color. I got kind of sick of it. Eventually, I did stop playing Fire Emblem Heroes, which is a game I played since launch. Because eventually, I just didn't feel like I was getting anything out of it, and I actually started to hate Fire Emblem as a franchise. Fire Emblem Engage came in, and I remember when I first saw the trailer, I was wary. But then after I, started watching more of the trailers, I actually started getting excited for it, and then I got the Divine Edition, which, mind you, was not easy. Apparently, GameStop oversold their orders, so some people just didn't get a Divine Edition. So when I ordered mine off of GameStop, I wasn't sure if it was even going to come to me. Like, one of the main voice actors, I think the person who plays Aaliyah right here, the male version, I think he, ordered a Divine Edition, and it didn't get there because they didn't fulfill his order. Which, mind you, he wasn't complaining. He was just like, I actually voiced this character, and I didn't get my Divine Edition. So when I remember, that was the first, because Fire Emblem Special Editions are notoriously low stock. So, yeah, trying to get one of their limited editions is extremely hard. Because Fire Emblem, before it became big after Awakening, was already a niche game. I mean, the only difference was it was still hard to find them, but no one knew about them. So, again, I could get a lot of the games for $15, $20, because no one knew what they were. After Awakening, they still had the issue of low stock. Just now, they would charge through the nose for it. I cannot tell you my trauma over trying to get the special edition for Fire Emblem Fates. Yeah, Fates. You know what? You know. In a nutshell, the problem with Fates is that it had a special game card that you could get something that you couldn't get anywhere else. Fates was split up between 3 different stories, so 2 different games were required to play it. The special edition gave you all 3 on 1. The scalpers for that game were savage. Lowest $200, highest $800 for the special edition. I bought it purely as a gift to myself to ease my childhood wound, and I still had to pay $300. Way more than I wanted to. But everything else was selling for $600, so I found a good deal, talked to the buyer, promised it was going to a good home, and I got it for $300. Purely I've never spent anything on that much on a game before, but I'm like, this is a limited edition, and in some ways it was healing my inner child from how I watched for days to see if limited editions came back in stock. Because it came out on a direct. And before the direct was finished, they were sold out of the limited editions. And they would spontaneously get them back in the middle of the night, but I wasn't someone who had like bots, because that was when scam bots were really big. People just buy a bunch of them. And then they scalp you online. Charge you $300, $400. At the time, I should have just paid $200 for one of the limited editions. Because nowadays, that's not at all anything for a limited edition. But I didn't play Fire Emblem Fates. Mind you, it came out, then took a year to get localized, so I had to avoid the internet because everyone was putting the spoilers up on YouTube. I waited a full another year for this game I desperately wanted to play. Because I wanted to try and get the limited edition. I wasn't going to choose which path. I desperately wanted the limited edition. And eventually, after a year, my dad says, enough is enough, which one do you want? And so I bought Conquest purely because I thought the cover art was cooler. And it is my favorite of the two games. Between Birthright and Conquest, I do prefer Conquest. But the amount of trauma I went through before getting that game, oh my gosh, that was my first encounter with scalpers on the internet. It was a bad time. Bad time. After that, I just decided, screw limited editions, I'm getting it day one so I can play the game. And, yeah. Long story short, Fire Emblem limited editions are extremely scarce whenever they come out. So trying to get one is usually very difficult. So the fact that I got Fire Emblem Engage... Because I missed out on the Three Houses one, too. And I missed out for the one on Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia, although I did see it in a market once. I decided to pass on it because the box wasn't in the best condition, and I'm going to pay $100 for it. I want the box to look nice. And they don't always have interesting things in the limited edition. Sometimes they have really cool stuff in it, and sometimes they have pretty lame stuff in it. But the fact that I ordered I almost missed it. I just barely almost missed the pre-order window for the Engage limited edition. I think it came out at like 8 a.m. and I saw it at 9. And I got in one of those GameStop pre-orders when it had gone out of stock everywhere else. And again, it still wasn't certain because GameStop had over-guessed their stock. So some people just straight up weren't getting orders and they were getting it canceled. So when it actually showed up in my house, I was almost ready to cry. I like texted it to everyone I knew and be like, I don't know if you know how important this is to me, but the fact this got here is so important to me. But I was in a point where I was not very happy with Fire Emblem. Just because of Fire Emblem Heroes, and playing Engage was like coming home. I have not felt that happy playing a game, namely Fire Emblem, since playing Fire Emblem Awakening, which was after, mind you, I played the game before Awakening, so that was the point where we thought the series was just dead. There was not going to be any more Fire Emblem games. So seeing Awakening was literally a crazy experience. But Fire Emblem Engage was literally the game where I'm like, this feels like Fire Emblem again. The characters are so charming. The combat is much better than it's been in years. The animations are definitely a step up. Not quite to the level of the pixel art, but definitely better than they've looked in probably 8 years. And then, the maps were properly challenging. The Engage system was cool, and also I just liked... people said it was cheap, but I liked the hits of nostalgia of using characters from other games. Because it was well implemented. It wasn't too big, it didn't overstay its welcome. And some people thought the story was basic because, you're fighting a dark dragon in order to save the world. But that, at the end of the day, is the quintessential Fire Emblem experience. And I loved it. It was, again, the way you have to look and engage is it's like Sonic Generations. It's an anniversary game to celebrate how much the series has been through up until this point. It's also the first game to make Marth actually have a personality, so... You give it that. He's been in so many Fire Emblem games, but this is the first time they actually gave him a personality that made me care about him, so. Obviously, this is going in the replay pile. I would love to play that game again, but... That's my moment about Fire Emblem, why this series means so much to me. But, this game, the fact that, everyone passed it over because they thought that the story was mid, made me unspeakably angry, because I'm kind of like... Have you played Fire Emblem before? The stories have never been outstanding. The thing that Fire Emblem's always been known for is its tactical combat and its characters. a lot of the stories honestly are not anything crazy or like reinventing the wheel, but the characters are so endearing that you don't want them to die. And also permadeath definitely made it so you cared about the characters a lot more. But this did everything a normal Fire Emblem game should do, and the DLC was great. I loved it. Doing a dark mirror world of the original world, this happy-go-lucky. That's the thing that made it the best. Actually, was this is a happy and kind of idealistic world and story, and then going to the mirror world where everything was dark and kind of evil was actually really cool. Good use of DLC. Especially when a lot of people donate more. Fire Emblem Warriors. Man, I would love to revisit that game. So, I'm going to put this... I'm going to put it here for now. Well, I'll put all the Fire Emblem over here because I do want to make a retrospective series at some point. Where I go through the entire series, game by game. Because I really want to replay some of them. I've gotten very nostalgic for a couple of them lately. Again, Fire Emblem Heroes kind of soured my experience. So I've wanted to go back and remind myself why I love the series. And I'm like, I would love to do a retrospective series where I start at the beginning and work my way through it. We technically did do this. Malin played FNAF 1, and I think that's the only one we're ever going to be able to manage. So we're going to leave it at that. But, we'll get to the G's. We'll get to right here. And then we'll stop for the night, because my throat is really hurting at this point. But we'll try and get to the G's. Because that'll be 1:15. That'll be pretty good. Because my throat is hurting some bad right now, bro. And I'm trying to drink water to help with it, but this cold is the worst. Anyway. I would love to do a Fire Emblem series playing from like the beginning and then just doing a play-by-play of each game, working its way up to ultimately culminating and engage in why I love that game so much. And also because it's nice to play. Yeah, this is the first day that sore throat's been hitting me. It's been mostly heavy congestion and a lot of sneezing and runny nose. My nose has been sore. But I've been drinking like 4 cups of tea every single day almost at this point. Like, I'm drinking so much tea. It's unreal. Definitely will be getting some honey tea after this for sure. This is the first day that I'm like, because it's starting to dry up, all the like congestion and other gunk in there is starting to dry up. That's why I'm getting sore in all my like airways. So, I'm doing my best. I'm trying to survive. Just hoping this is done soon. Sicknesses suck. And yet I'm still streaming here for the 3rd time this week anyway, because I really need to work through this list. I have so many games in the hoops. I forgot to put game. I'm not going to get through this game otherwise. So this is supposed to be like a short, sweet, like puzzle mini games thing where you go through this girl's life, and there's a lot of like mini puzzles and stuff like that. I hear it's a short, sweet experience. Here's like an hour or two. Goes through this girl and her like relationship. Yeah, I'll put that in there. We'll need some good feels games too. Forgot, and I think I remember this one. This is another game I grabbed purely off of aesthetics because look, this girl has metal wings. Is that not cool? Love me some steampunk vibes. I think this is an action game. Like an action adventure game. Like kind of platformy but also puzzle solving. I don't really remember a lot about this game. Besides, I thought the trailers were really cool. Let's see if I can find a summary about what the game is about. No, after we came back from... We already had a lot of tea in the house to begin with, but man, after we came back from Europe, you better believe we had a lot of tea. Yeah, you can hear the puppies? Yep, I'm guessing someone's letting them out downstairs. Gus is pretty loud. Step into a hand-animated realm of wonder in which everyday objects take on a life of their own and cover the floor with godlings, mysteries, and harness magical forces to embark on a quest to return home. So yet another story where you are from another world and have to save it. I just like this hand-drawn art style vibe. I've bought a lot of games off of aesthetics. Not a lot about the game itself. It has really good Legend place for everything that is lost or forgotten goes. Old toys, litters, single socks. The forgotten lands, magic world inhabited by creatures composed of mislate ayahs long to be remembered. Cinematic adventure with focus on meaningful story and light puzzling. Yeah, I guess I'd be willing to try and play that. They are loud. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm impressed our mic can pick it up from this far, but they are loud puppies. They're Shepherd Lab mixes, so they got a lot of energy. And also, one of them, our boy, is very... He whines a lot. He's very needy. He's just loud. So this one I bought because this one, like, is a game that very much is trying to be Sonic Rush. Like, I remember watching people play this one and being like, first of all, apparently she's supposed to be a dragon. Just crazy. But it has 3 story modes that are, like, if you look at this, very much trying to be Sonic Adventure. And, like, Sonic Rush sort of gameplay. I never played a lot of 2D Sonic. I played more 3D Sonic, but I'm like, I like good pixel art. That's pretty cool. So I do want to play at some point. I know this is going to be a now sort of game to play, but definitely a cool one. I don't think we're going to play it right now, but cool game. And Fuga Melody is Steel I'm going to put on. That one I know I'm playing on this one because I remember hearing about this one. It's supposed to have a very good story. But you're a bunch of kids in the middle of a war, and you have this like war machine that you all go in, so it's part like resource management, part combat. It mostly has some very deep story things to tell about war because, you know... I mean, come on, look at this. You think this is going to be a lighthearted story? I heard a lot of good things about this one. Had a really good story, had very interesting gameplay. It's, gosh, what's the studio name? By this one studio that has, like, this very distinct, art style. That one too. And as long as we're here, we're going to put Ghost Trick Fan Detective on. This will be our last one for tonight. This will go on the replay one, because I have already beat it on the DS. This is another game that actually came very close to playing on stream a couple of times. Yes, never got around to. This was re-released on the Switch. This is by the same people who created the Ace Attorney series. So the idea is that you're a dead spirit. This guy's dead spirit. And you can possess objects, so you have to essentially go through, like, Rube Goldberg sort of puzzles by, like, tricking or affecting the slight little objects in a series of things in order to, like, prevent someone's death. And the idea is eventually you have to figure out who killed you and why, you know? So, it's a very good story. It had, again, before I even knew what Ace Attorney was, I played this game. It has a very, like, the Ace Attorney writers are really good. They know how to tell a good story. They know how to have some good twists and turns. They have properly wacky characters. Definitely on the replay pile. I would love to play that one again. This is where we're going to stop for now. Because, again, my throat's killing me. We're at about 10 o'clock now. We've made it to 116. So, that's good progress. Still a long way to go. Oh gosh, why do I have so many games? But, I mean, we're narrowing it down slowly. I did put all these on the not to play right now pile. Gosh, this is going to take so long. Thanks, I appreciate it. I'm gonna go get some tea after this, but anyway, I don't expect I don't know, unless I feel like phenomenally better. I might do a morning stream tomorrow or an afternoon stream tomorrow. Or I might not. It's gonna depend on how my voice is feeling tomorrow. Yeah. Well, the thing I'm trying to do with my backlog is that I'm thinking by making a list. Because the idea is the end of the day, 24 lucky games will get these spots on this little calendar I have going on. So, backlog game, and potentially replay games, and then, any new releases or requested specially things will go here. But I'm like, I need to start making time for me to play games. And maybe that means that, like, every time I play a game I stream, doesn't matter what time it is, how long it is, to hold myself accountable and play games and take more time for myself. Because I got a lot of games, and I want to start getting through some of them. Because it looks so big looking at this now. But I'm like, I think I just need to start making a plan and executing on it. The games are very important to me. They're a huge part of my identity, and I want to play more of them and enjoy them. I mean, honestly, this last month I've been playing nothing but, like, Star Rail, because that was a game that I, again, have fallen in love with. Like, 3 times now. Every time I play New World, I find a new reason to fall in love with it. For a free game, a gacha game of all things, my hat's off to the developers on that one. Which is funny, because I already loved Genshin Impact, and I went to play the game, and it kind of got turned off by it, because I did not like the gameplay, and the first region is so bare. But, like, I will try, and when John Lee comes back into focus, I will play the game again, so I can try and get him. That's the character I like the most in that game. But I will go and try the game again. But, see, on here, Genshin Impact, first game to replay. I'm playing a lot of Star Rail lately, because that's just what I've been enjoying. It has amazing storyline and amazing characters. And honestly, great gameplay for a gacha game that's free, mind you. Everyone should play Star Rail right now, I'm telling you. But, just so I can have some friends on there at least. But, I need to play more games just to enjoy them. So that's what I'm going to try and do. This is my first step to taking that. So thank you for everyone who stopped by. Thank you for everyone who chatted with me. Again, this is going to be a monumental task to get through and to... Nice. I've not tried Zenless Zone Zero, but, just because I'm not... I've just not tried. I'm busy playing Star Rail, and I'm loving that, so it's like, I just haven't tried any other games, but hope you're having fun with that one. Hope you're having a good time. But thanks to anyone who stopped by and who chatted. It helps fill in the silence. It helps make this task not seem so huge if I'm at least chatting with some people alongside it. Hope I was a good background noise for whatever you're working on or doing. Hope you've had a good day. And I guess I'll see you guys all in, probably sometime next week. You were? That was your background music? That's all I ever aspired to be. Alright, thanks for stopping by, guys. Always appreciate it. I have to get up to turn the stream off.